Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Sweden and we're going to visit one of my favourite breweries that I've discovered since I've moved over here. So we're going up to Dalarna County once again, very famous for its skiing, and we're doing my fourth visit to Oppigårds Bryggeri, and this one is their Imperial Stout beer called the Turbo Stout, which comes in at 8.7%, rated at 95 on Rate Beer incidentally, so this I'm sure will be a damn good beer. And Oppigårds are one of the more kind of established Swedish craft breweries, but they produce some really nice and really well balanced ales, and I always enjoy their stuff, so very much looking forward to trying this one. I've never tried it before, so it should be a very interesting one, and it's very highly rated like I said. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual websites are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other Oppigårds reviews, the other 3 of them so far, and there's all the usual social media. Please check that out, and if you do want to see more beer reviews, just subscribe to the channel, and I will apologise in advance for any bad Swedish pronunciations in this video. I'm still getting used to Swedish, of course, since I moved here to Lund, but I hope that doesn't stop you guys enjoying the videos. But anyway, to tell you about Oppigårds Bryggeri. So Oppigårds was founded in the early 2000s in a little town called Hedemora, which is to the northwest of Stockholm in Dalarna County, very famous for its skiing of course, and the town itself is somewhere near Borlänge and Falun. Falun of course, the home of Sabaton, who I really love. But the brewery sits on the 250-year-old Folkestrom farm in a small wooden building which was apparently constructed back in 1896. This space was originally used for flax dressing, but also for the family, for the great-grandfather's metalsmith workshop. But all the beers are brewed in this old building, but more recently they've also added a malt house to the facility as well. But the brewery was founded in the early 2000s by Bjorn Oppigård to revive the family farm and also to revive the old traditions of the Swedish farmhouse ales. These beers were apparently the norm in Sweden until a kind of wave of modern generic kind of lager beers hit the shelves in the 1800s, and this made the farmhouse beers largely unprofitable, so you had a decline of the sort of craft brewing industry back in the day. But the brewery has become very popular, and it's allowed the Folkestrom family to actually continue and make their living on the farm as they've done it since the 1700s. But in their first year they produced only 8,000 litres of beer and sold it locally, but now they're producing well over 1 million litres of beer, and they're starting to export their beers now as well. And as I said, these guys are probably one of the really quite well-known Swedish craft breweries these days. They produce some very nice beers, and they're really quite well balanced and very solid beers. I really enjoyed the India tribute beer that I did for you before, and some of the other ones are very good too. So I'm really interested to try one of their darker beers this time and see how we get on with that. But just to list the other beers you can get from these guys before we get on to the tasting, there's the Amarillo, the American Dark Ale, the Dark Lager, Easter Ale, Everyday IPA, Golden Ale, the India Tribute, which I've reviewed for you before, Lavish IPA, which was a special edition beer. That one was absolutely beautiful. There was Single Hop Ale, Summer Session Beer, Turbo Double IPA, this guy here, the Turbo Stout, and also the Winter Ale. And very recently as well, actually, you saw me review it a while ago, they also produced the Bridge IPA, which is called Building Bridges as well, with Oppigårds Bryggeri in Copenhagen. That is a beautiful beer, one of the best IPAs that I've reviewed actually, so that's a beer that if you come across I would highly recommend that you try. It's called Bridge IPA in the Oppigårds colours, but in the Oppigårds colours it's called Building Bridges. You can see it just behind me on the shelf there. There's some really beautiful artwork on those beers too. But yeah, let's actually get stuck into this beer and see how we get on. So as I mentioned to you, this one is an 8.7% Imperial Stout. Turbo apparently was the name given to an industrial area in Sweden. The TH spelling is the old way of spelling it. Now it's just spelled, of course, Turbo, but this was apparently an industrial area, I think, in the Dalarna area. So yeah, that's what it's named after. You can see on the top there is the Oppigårds bottle cap on this one, but very nicely presented as is typical from them. And you can see there the signature just on the side from the brewer. So yeah, it should be very nice. As I said, 8.7% Imperial Stout. I do have the malt and hop profile for this one as well. It didn't actually say on the website what hops were in it, but it's got a malt base of oatmeal and some smoked malt as well. But the smoked malt apparently is quite minimal, because the idea was that they just wanted to add some complexity to this beer. But let's get it open and we'll see how we get on. So yes, as you can see, a nice smoky opening on this one. So we'll get it out and into the glass, and you can smell some of the sweetness of this. It smells very chocolatey, almost a little bit licoricey and kind of soy saucy as well, actually, just as you're pouring it out of the bottle. It's got a really nice dark aroma to it, this one, and it's poured exactly as you would expect an imperial stout to. Should be very good. There is a little bit of sediment left in the bottle of this one, but yeah, very nice looking beer. So as you can see, this beer is poured definitely an ebony sort of rosewood colour. If I put it up to the light there, it only has a very, very little tint, ruby tint to the edge of it. It's actually almost like a kind of very dark Coca-Cola colour, actually. There's a solid finger of a frothy beigey tan head on this one. Even when I'm just moving it around a little bit to look at it, you can smell the sweet malts off this one. There's a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, but quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. Overall, this beer smells very, very nice. So let's have a proper look at the aroma. Oh yeah. No, definitely. There's a lot of sweet caramel coming out of this one, just underneath the chocolate. It's really the chocolate that stands out immediately on this beer to me. There's a little bit of kind of coffee-ish black malts, a kind of roasted character just underneath it. But it smells very sweet and very chocolatey. Maybe just a little bit of licorice in there. But you can pick up a bit of a woody, almost nutty infusion to this beer. Definitely some earthy hops in there as well, which is what you would expect, but you can smell these nice earthy hops. If we sugar it up a little bit more, yeah, if you sugar it up a bit more, it actually gets even sweeter than that. Really is kind of a mix of licorice, some nice woody and nutty character, kind of syrupy, sweet chocolate, yeah, some sweet chocolate, and also some really nice, it's a really nice smelling beer, this actually. The woody and nutty notes are nice in it as well. There's a bit of bready character to it as well once your nose adjusts to it. Earthy hops, like I say, but really sweet chocolate, dark toasted caramel as well. It smells very, very nice. So let's get stuck into this guy then. So this is the Thurbo Stout from Oppigårds Bryggeri in Hedemora, Dalarna, Sweden, to the northwest of Stockholm. Very pretty part of the country. Skål. Oh yeah, that's a beautiful beer, no doubt about that. It just hits all the spots that I would want from an imperial stout. It's got a good bit of dark character to it, but it also has some nice sweetness to it. So as I always say with these beers, sugar it around your palate a little bit and just let your whole mouth adjust before you start dissecting the flavour of the beer too much. Yeah, that is really nice actually. You really start to detect the smoky elements to the flavour of this as well. But the middle of the palate's just blanketed with this slightly bready character. It's almost like a kind of brown bread pale malt in this one actually. You can feel it go right across the middle of the tongue. As the flavour progresses, I'm actually feeling the centre of my tongue dry out a little bit. You can really feel some of the smoky characters and some of the more coffee-ish flavours coming out of this beer as the flavour progresses. You can feel it right in the middle of the tongue and it just dries out really quite nicely. There's sweet chocolate in there, there's some toasted and roasted caramel and treacly malts as well. It's really a nice mix of flavours, this beer. I can see why it's so highly rated. Yeah, there's a little bit of a kind of licoricey flavour to it as well. You can feel that mixing with the chocolate and the caramel and things in there. And it's really nice actually. The Swedes absolutely love licorice. I don't know how many of you watching outside of Sweden know that, but the Swedes love this salted licorice stuff. Personally, I don't understand the fascination with it. The normal licorice is nice, but the salted licorice, I can't deal with that. But the regular licorice is nice, and this is one thing I think you find quite a bit in Sweden. A lot of their Baltic porters and a lot of their stouts do tend to have that little bit of licorice flavour in them, and of course that's just catering to the Swedish taste because they love it so much. It's you know, it's like as we would have back in Scotland. It's kind of like Tunnock's tea cakes, something like that. It's just their sort of tradition that they absolutely love. But yeah, that's a damn good beer, there's no doubt about that. At the sides of the palate where you get the hoppy characters, it's quite smooth and earthy, maybe just a little bit grassy around the front of the palate, I think there's been some English hops used in this. I don't think there's much doubt about that. But it's quite smooth around the back of the palate. There's a little bit of dryness from the earthy flavours, and you can feel a little bit of a grassy, slightly floralish character around the front. But the earthiness does spread quite far forward. It's really nicely done, this beer. I have to admit, this is definitely one that I would try again. No doubt about that. That's a really good stout. If you enjoy imperial stouts, you like a little bit of licorice flavour, but you like some of the darker roasted malts, the smoky character you can really get in this. It infuses in quite well. You've got some of the woody and nutty characters just in there too. There's some sweet chocolate, some roasted caramel kind of treacle things going on. And yeah, this is a very, very good beer. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You really need to try this one for yourself. I have to admit, I really have enjoyed this one. Oppigårds never seem to disappoint, so if you get the chance to try some of their beers, definitely do it. But yeah, that's really nice. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say this is mid-bodied, maybe pushing the full-bodied category actually. It's got a really quite oily mouthfeel, this one, I think. You can feel the oily character. It helps brings out the sweet part of the beer at the start, but then it gives way to the more roasted characters. The sort of black malt, the coffee-ish flavours, and a bit of the smoky character as well. You can really feel it giving way to that portion of the flavour, and it's very nicely done. The mouthfeel suits it very well. The carbonation, of course, is very smooth. There's a good balance between the sweet part of the malts at the start, then it gives away to a bit more of a dry and bitter malt. But that said, in the middle of the palate you'll find a very good balance between the sweet side of things and the more dark and bitter side of things. There's a good smooth hop character to it, just a little bit of dryness around the edge of the palate, but overall the mouthfeel really suits the beer. It helps bring out all of these different flavours. And this beer actually tastes as if it's one that's been very well refined. I would be interested to know how they went about the recipe development for this one, how much trial and error and things it was, but this beer for me plays out very, very well. So if you want to try some other Swedish stouts, of course the Oppigårds stouts are very famous from Sweden these days, even though they are actually brewed in Belgium. This is one of the best stouts you're going to find in Sweden. I don't think there's much doubt about that. There are other really, very good porters and stouts, but I would say safely this one is probably one of the best that you're going to come across. So make sure you try it, but do try the Swedish beers in general. The standard of Swedish beer is really quite high these days, and Oppigårds are one of the more established names actually, and you will enjoy their beers if you try them. But yeah, this was the Thurbo Stout from Oppigårds Bryggeri in Hedemora in Dalarna, one of my favourite breweries that I've discovered here in Sweden. If you like a nice stout beer that's a good mix between a little bit the bitter side of things but also quite sweet, you will definitely enjoy this one. It's quite quirky as well. On Rate Beer it was rated about 55 within the style, so it does have a good bit of quirkiness to it as well. So for the novelty factor, it is definitely worth trying, but this is a damn good beer, so make sure you check it out. And pretty much you can pick anything you'll like from Oppigårds, just whatever style you enjoy. Try the Oppigårds version of it and I'm sure you will enjoy it. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. As always, do let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer. If you have tried it, do let me know that below. Let me know your favourite beers from Oppigårds as well. But until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Go and check out my social media things as well. Your support there would be much appreciated. But most importantly, go and try some of the beers from Oppigårds Bryggeri. As I said, one of the really well-established names here in Sweden, and they produce some pretty damn awesome beers. So I would recommend that you go and check them out. Until the next time, slange just now, skål, and I will catch you soon. Cheers.